So I want to kick this off. I'll introduce myself. My name is Gary with CloudNet 360. For the people that don't know me, we're a small business sales automation system. And what we're doing today is we're just having additional webinars to get information out. We have so many interesting customers that use our system that we thought it'd be great to get the information out of the things that they're doing, because it really is fascinating. It's one of the things I love about working in this type of industry is just all the fascinating people we meet and the interesting businesses that they run. With me today, we have Barbara Alexander, and I'm going to let you explain what you're doing because I'm not going to be able to do it justice.
Well, I work with leadership training and personal energy awareness. They actually have a term now called energy science, which is understanding how our bodies, our mind and our bodies are connected, but how it affects us in relationship with each other. And what we found through some of the interesting work I'm doing with horses and people, and we aren't necessarily doing horsemanship training, but personal awareness, energy awareness. We're learning things about how we relate and what our signature energy is when we are connected with other people or in a team environment, home environment, personal relationships, whatever. Mm-hmm. A lot of nonverbal communication going on that the horses reflect for us.
Yeah, I find the horses are a fascinating topic. I want to get more into that later. But before we get into let's call it the what, I'd like to get into and understand better the why of what you're doing. When you have people coming to you, I mean, why are they coming to you and what are you able to help them with?
Well, I came from the corporate world. I was in it for over 20 years. Mm-hmm. I was in leadership training, and this was going back 15 years ago. I left that because so much of it was geared towards, we did things like ropes and poles and team building events and those kinds of things, if you've ever been involved in those exercises with your teams. But there was something lacking, something that was really, it was the sustainability of what you were to learn and how you would bring it back into the business and how it would really make a difference. It was a fun day, but it didn't really create change. It left something missing for me. And when I ended up leaving the corporate world, because I really wanted to minister, so to speak, to people like me, women in the corporate world, and now men and women in the corporate world, who are looking to have a better experience in their life, better experience in relationship with their teams, being more mindful, more present, and creating really more joy in their work, because so many people were unhappy in work. So this is how I got into it. And the people that come to me, if I just put out there a survey of where are you in your work environment? Are you enjoying what you're doing? Are you feeling motivated? Do you feel valued at your office? Are you part of a team? The majority of people don't answer yes, really. They do what they need to do to make money, to support themselves. And my belief really down deep is that we can enjoy our lives, we can enjoy our work, and we can just do it a little bit different if we're more aware of each other in our team, more aware of our environment. And so I actually went back to school and learned how to do experiential learning with the horses because it filled that gap. It really taught the somatic awareness that's necessary. So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a key point. Some people will go to work and they persevere through. And other people, even on this call, I talked about how much I enjoy meeting people like you and other interesting customers that we have. So for me, I'm not persevering through. Sometimes I'm on the phone late at night where I should be leaving and letting the other person off the call, but I sit there and talk to them because they're explaining their business to me, and it's really fascinating. And I'm sure in your experience now, you have so many people coming through. You obviously love what you're doing. And you, I'm sure, have the same experience, don't you? Don't you meet just a lot of interesting people? And
I meet a lot of interesting people, yes.
Okay, so that was a long-winded question. What I really wanted to ask you, I know that was kind of like me talking and then just a yes, no. But what I really wanted to ask is, you mentioned the corporate world and how you help corporate leaders and make it more effective for them to make their life more enjoyable at work and probably their team's life as well, right?
Yes.
But sure, there's also a personal aspect to this, isn't it? I mean, you can you can come at this from a corporate perspective and say, look, I want to be a better leader. I want to be a better manager. I want to be a better team builder, whatever that case might be. Or some people, and this is a leading question, I don't know the answer. I'm sure some people are coming for personal reasons. They aren't worried about the corporate world. They're worried about something else in their life, whether it's family or, and I'm going to stop there because I don't know what else it would be.
You're absolutely right, Gary. This is the dilemma from the way we used to do things in work and home. Who we were at work and who we are at home are in the past different, or maybe even now still different. Instead of us being who we are consistently, home and at work, and being clear with what the information is that we're getting. And I call this intuitive awareness, this intuitive training. And I use the term leadership, but it's really leadership of life, not just leadership at our work. It's how do we choose to live our life? How do we want to step forward? And what choices do we want to make about bringing more joy in our life? Or do we want to live with status quo? So yes, it is personal. It's extremely personal. In fact, the people that go through the program will come for one reason, come to be better at their job or better at what they're doing. But what they go away with is something much larger, much more heart-centered and affecting every part of their life. And it stays and they expand. And I get the most wonderful feedback later where they really understand. And when you get into the application, I call it our laboratory of our life. Right? Whether we're at work or we're home.
So what are those preconceived notions that people come to you thinking, hey, I'm going to go there and do this. And then when they get there, it's like, oh my, right? And there's that surprise of, wow, I wasn't expecting this. This is totally kind of different than what I expected.
Right. Well, it's one of a couple of things. They're either coming because they want to be better at controlling their energy, their ability to communicate, their ability to manage either teams or their horses or their family. They want to learn how to use their energy more effectively to do something outside of themselves and to make their environment work for them. What they find out is that it's what's going on inside here that affects everything out there. If they shift here, then all of a sudden everything around them shifts. They don't have to fix this person and that situation. It becomes more of what is it I need to do? How can I think of this differently in a way that supports me and creates what I'm wanting in my life?
Now, is that where the nonverbal communication comes in, where people are saying one thing and their team is hearing something else? So they're projecting one thing in their mind, but what's really happening in the minds of the recipients of their team is something maybe actually opposite.
Right. Yeah, I had a great example. I had a gentleman that owned a business, and he came and he was concerned because he said, I don't know what's going on, why people get so upset when I talk to them. They say I'm yelling at them, but I'm not yelling at them. I'm telling them what they need to do. If we've got a problem, we got to fix it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. I mean, literally, you feel like this, right? Like, oh, I need to protect myself against you. Well, that was going on with his team, but he had no way of knowing that because he was so excited and enthusiastic about what the issue was. And he wanted to get to the bottom of things. But his presentation scared people away. So they could not function in a way that would really bring the most value. They were all crippled by the fact that they were afraid.
Right.
So I brought him in with one of my horses, and I usually know ahead of time which horse is going to get picked based on the personality of the person coming in. I've done it for so long, I can tell. But he had quite an incredible experience with a horse, never been around horses really before. But the horse responded to his energy in a way that taught him how to shift that, how to really make himself more approachable and feel more like part of the team.
Well, the horses, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit because we keep talking about the horses. The horses have kind of a unique ability to sense people, don't they?
They do. It's been said that they're prey animals, we're predators, dogs, cats are all predators. We're more solicitous, eyes forward versus praise more to the Well, to survive, horses have had to become highly sensitive, energetic. And there's all kinds of studies now with the mind-body connection and how what we think affects how we feel. Well, it also affects everything around us. And there's studies being done now about the energetic effects, the energy we bring into a room. So we talk about leadership presence. We talk about our walking into a room and feeling confident. Well, have you ever heard the term when you walk in front of a horse, don't let them know you're scared?
Right, right.
Yeah. Well, that isn't going to happen because they're not reading you outside. They're actually picking up on your heart rate, a lot of other variables, nonverbal variables. Well, we as humans have the ability to also feel those things, to also pick up on those things. So when I reference nonverbal communication, I'm really talking about, so if you think about this, most of us have gone to school and we live in our brain and our intellect. We've kind of cut ourselves off here and we've stopped the feeling, information from the body wisdom. So what I do, we work with people to reawaken this and get that connection so the mind can interpret more information. They say that 10% of communication is verbal and 90% is nonverbal. So there's all this information out there. The horses are picking up and they're responding to the people based on the energy you bring, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, people don't think about it as maybe nonverbal communication, but how many people can tell you that somebody is standing behind them staring at them, right? They can feel it. They can't see it, but they can feel it. Or when you're driving down the highway, all of a sudden, when a car is passing you, if you look over, you can tell when someone is looking at you as they're passing you. You just feel it. You can't see it, but you feel it. Right. And the horses, I mean, they're coming into this with a higher sense, aren't they?
Yes. And Gary, you're bringing up a really good point. Not everybody can feel. Not everybody, in fact, I find the more developed intellectually, like the engineers, doctors, and people who are over in that side of the brain that have really developed that side of the brain, they don't have as easy time with interpreting intuition. Salespeople, however, excellent with intuition. They have to read the nonverbal field all the time. Lawyers have to read all of the people in the jury.
Right.
So different, and people gravitate to what's easiest for them, what their default is. But it is this is very learnable, and so, you're talking about being able to pick up on somebody coming up behind you. We actually do a practice where we start at 40 feet away so that, and the more you do this, the more you are connecting the neural pathways of intuition to intellect. So
you're saying you can actually practice that sensory perception?
Yes. And reawaken it. We all had it when we were children. But it tends to be diluted as we continue to grow and learn and age.
Right.
Stop tuning in.
Well, it wouldn't be a webinar with me without one soccer story.
Okay.
So, because that's my outside passion, right? So one of the things, my daughter is a competitive soccer player and has been since they were wearing those scrunchies in their hair, right? That was the most important thing, was the color of their scrunchies. So she's been in this forever, and she plays defense. And one of the things I taught her was that when she's out on the field and they're doing a punt or a goal kick or something to get the ball back into play, what she can do is she can just invade a person's personal space and move them. And I always video the games, and I've showed her when she's done it. I say, look, you've moved that person all the way across the field without ever touching them, right? And this is something I actually learned from, training like yours, right? I went through the corporate training, personal space, all the rest of it. So we all have that sense, and we don't always even know that we're doing it, but you can walk a person all the way across the room. Or in this case, I would have her walk a person completely out of position just by invading that personal space, never touching them, but just invade that space and move them where you want them to go.
That's perfect.
So that's my soccer story. I had to work that in somehow. I always have to
Well,
work in one of those.
great example. That's a perfect example of the personal use of energy. And I can't tell you how many people sit in meetings and maybe have an idea that they want to share, and they say it and nobody responds. A couple minutes go by and somebody that has a bigger energy will say those exact words, and people are like, hey, that's a great idea.
Right.
And then
Like
you're like,
the FedEx commercial, right? That FedEx commercial is the classic where the guy says, that's what I said. No, you said it this way. I said it this way. You know which one I'm talking about?
no, I don't.
Oh, it's a classic. You'll have to look that one up on YouTube. But when you have a program like this, is this gender neutral? I mean, is this something that men and women both benefit from?
Absolutely. Men, women, children, everyone. Yeah, I had a children's program. I'm so glad you brought that up about your daughter, because teaching our kids how to understand their own signature energy and then how to use it more effectively. And your example in the soccer team was perfect. But men too, men and women, you know, like the example of the gentleman that I said was the CEO of his company. His energy was so big and he had no idea he was sabotaging his own team. A lot of managers are like that.
Just overpowering people.
Yeah, overpowering people without even realizing it. He just was so focused and so excited about what he was doing and so powerful in his presence that he was intimidating. Yeah.
Okay. So we've been talking about, you know, the energy and the different techniques and processes and ways that people can benefit from it. I want to swing this into the horses because, again, I like to stay on schedule. And I really love this topic of how you've integrated horses into your training program, because that's so unique. Nobody else is doing that, at least not that I know of. And it is such a unique and powerful way of running this type of training. I'd like to learn more about how you thought, wow, you know, I could run a personal training program, or I could bring horses in. I mean, where did that come from? How did you come up with that? And then what's the benefit of bringing the horses over, let's just say, a more traditional type of setting where people are maybe, you know, maybe they're more comfortable, maybe getting them outside their comfort zone is what you're doing. I'm not sure. So I'm really interested in hearing more about that.
Well, it's all of those things, actually. So I had the background in leadership training. So I have had experience and understanding what is working, what's not working out there. Then I went to training when I left the corporate world to experiential learning with horses. And that was a personal growth program. It was actually over a 2-year period. And I loved it. And as I was watching this and feeling inside myself, all the wheels started turning. And I was thinking, this is the missing piece. This is the missing piece for people at home, I was in sales. So for salespeople, that missing, how do you build the intuitive awareness for women who aren't heard, which unfortunately, if we get gender specific, women in particular have difficulty really knowing how to be heard and use their energy effectively. For men who don't want to do the competition and the what do we call it, the dominance and submission game within the corporate world, you know, they just want to do a good job and be part of a team, learning how to be more effective and efficient with their energy. All of this I can talk to you, I can stand and I can lecture, but until you physically feel the difference between. So I told you about that gentleman, the guy that was so full of his energy that he overpowered people. So he gets in front of my horse, 40 feet apart, and he's got his energy. He's explaining to me the situation, and he says, "Why do these women cry when I'm talking? I just want them to listen. When we got a problem, we got to fix it." And as he's talking to me, here's my horse, 40 feet away from him. Puts his head down and his ears are forward and his withers, which is his shoulders, go up about 4 inches. And he looks very ominous. My instruction to the man was to feel where he is in relationship to the horse and where he could have, pretend this is his team, he could have a healthy conversation. And I wanted him to step forward until he could feel where it felt comfortable for him and for the horse. Most of us think just about ourselves. Where do I feel comfortable in relation to you? But I'm not picking up on the cues. So here's my horse looking like you come close and you'll be sorry, right? So
Right.
the guy's like 6'2". I mean, he's a big guy. And he said, okay, this is close enough. And I realized what was going on, the energy power. So I said, he's talking to me and I said, so tell me, do you golf on the weekend? And he said, yeah, I do. I golf. I love it. I get out as much as I can. So as he was telling me, his energy dropped down.
Sure.
If you looked over at the horse, his energy dropped down.
Mm-hmm.
His ears softened, he relaxed into his body, and he took a step forward. And the guy, I pointed it out to him, he said, oh, geez, did I do that? And I said, yeah, you did. I said, now tell me, where do you feel more comfortable in talking to him? Is it here, or do you want to walk up? So he took about 4 steps forward, and the horse took about 4 steps forward.
Okay.
They're still about 20 feet apart. Took another couple, the horse took another couple, and he said, I get it. It's me, my energy, and what I'm bringing to the group that's causing this. I mean, it's as fast as that. I could have lectured and he would not have understood until he physically changed his energy and saw the behavior of the horse that has no ego in the game.
Right.
He shifts his, and you get it.
Yes, I think that's a really important part. The horse is not fake. And most of these training courses, and I think of all of them that I've been to in the corporate world, were all fake role playing. So you never really learn, you never really get that true real life feedback of what you're doing, because I'm playing a role and you're playing a role and I know you're fake, and you know you're supposed to provide certain answers, even if you're supposed to be adversarial. I know it's fake, right? But at least with the horses can't be fake because they don't know how to be fake.
Right. They're very clear, honest.
Mm-hmm.
When you shift, and and they know when you're faking it. If there's incongruence, like you're trying to be one thing and you're really another inside, they turn around and walk away. They'll have nothing to do with you because it's uncomfortable, this dissonance. Well, and it's uncomfortable for each of us. When we know somebody's not quite telling us everything, or we're in a meeting and we know something's wrong with somebody, but we don't know where, we just can feel in our body there's a tension and we know it's not us. Right. This is what the body awareness training helps us to understand. Where is the problem? And how can I be in relationship with this person? How can I approach this person in a way that they can hear me and I can let them know they're supported, so that we can move forward on the things we've got to do. Right, right. So you run more of a camp style, right? So people come to your location, you have lodging, facilities. I mean, they come and they just need to show up and everything is provided for them, right? Meals, lodging, they have to bring their clothes, of course. Well, now that's for the personal growth retreats. For more of this energy training, I actually have been going all over the country. So I can go to where the businesses are. If it's a team, I can take teams here. I can small groups of 6 to 8 people here at a time, but they don't stay here. They come and they do their sessions all day long. We have lunches and then work, and then they go to a hotel here. Wait, hold on, I'm confused. So you have different programs, right? So I thought there was a program where people did stay at. Those are women's retreats. Okay, so you have retreats and then you have the corporate workshops. Okay, got it. So it's just 2 different things. Yes, it's just 2 different things. Okay, so when you do the corporate workshop at your facility, they will come and do the training and then go back to a hotel and stay there. They usually come in for a weekend. It's just a weekend-long training, and it's not just corporate. It's what I call leadership of life. Okay. And if you do this program in their location, do you bring your horses with you then? No, that's a good question. No, if I'm going to another location, I find a facility that has horses and a place we can do the program. Okay. So the horses really are, because of their perception, they don't have to be special trick horses. They're just horses. Exactly. Aha. Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, a lot of people used to think my horses would read their mind, and it's not. It's not that. It's not my horses are special. All horses can do this for sure. Yeah, we used to go and still do. We take the kids camping. When I was young, we used to go camping, and we'd always go to the horses. And it was always that, hey, don't
show the horse that you're scared of it. Don't get jittery, because then the horse won't respond to you properly and it won't listen to you and all the rest of it. So I'm pretty familiar with that. I tend to like things with throttles and brakes are easier to control.
Yeah. And if you want, that would be one of the things. If anybody has a question about that, I can talk to you about how do you set yourself up so that you can be balanced inside no matter what's going on around you. You can't fake it, but there's a way to help yourself be aware, get the information, and find your balance, even in chaos.
Right. Yeah, I have learned as I've gotten older just to go in much more calm, because I'll still go in with the kids. We'll go on the horseback trail rides up north in Wisconsin when we go camping. And it is, if you just go in there calm and confident, just walk right up to it and then get on it and go, it is better.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I did have one last question. I did write down a list of questions. We actually covered them all, so I don't need to go down the list, but I have one last one that didn't get covered. Skeptics. Do you have people that think, hey, this is just not for me? I don't get it. Do you ever get corporate groups coming in and you get that one outlier that says, I don't know, I'm not a believer. I just don't get it. I'm not participating. I'm just here because I'm forced to.
Yes. And it just takes a minute. As soon as they see it, and they watch the same horse with 3 or 4 different people and they behave differently with each horse, they can't wait to get in there and try it themselves. Yeah, and I'm a skeptic too. If I had to see it to understand it. And not, you don't, it's not something up here, it's in here. It's really learn from watching and feeling. It's teaching us to reconnect so that we get that information from in here. So when you watch everybody else, there's no mistaking. I mean, it's like a scientific experiment.
Right. They see it for themselves then. All right. Well, we are at that half-hour mark. And what I'd like to do is open it up now for Q&A. I see we've got some questions that have already popped in. Fantastic. So let me, I'm going to divert my eyes, but it's because I'm reading the questions here. Okay. So here's a question from Linda. Do you think the horses react to the same behavior the same way for each person, or are there different reactions for different people? And how are you able to interpret that response for the people that are attending?
Okay, so I don't interpret anything. And if you ever are with somebody that tells you what the horse is thinking or what's going on, they're the wrong person to be with. What is really important is that each individual learns how to hear within themselves. And so there's a process that I take you through. I was starting about the balance. It starts with first understanding, how do you create balance within your body? And then how do you interpret the information that's coming to you from your body? So our bodies will tell us if we're needing to slow down. If there's a number of different things, our bodies, try to communicate with us all the time about health and well-being, but they also communicate with us about things like, don't go do this. If there's something that's you shouldn't do, and we override it a lot of the time. So there's a lot of information to get to the answer to this question, but if I'm understanding correctly, when I could have 3 different people have energy that is too big. You hear about like a bull in a china shop. And if you've got an energy scale of 1 to 10, what we found is that there's usually 2 groups, the 1 to 5 people and the 5 to 10 people. So the 5 to 10 people usually, push their way in, and they're very aggressive, and they're the ones that are heard. They're the ones that are always talking at every meeting, right? How the horses behave with an aggression like that, or that kind of energy, will be similar every time. Yes.
So do the horses match aggression with aggression, or do they, if you're aggressive, do they cower back?
Well, it depends. It depends. If you're, I don't want to use the word aggression. I guess some people
assertive. We'll say assertive.
Assertive, but some people are just big energy. They just get in your face. Everybody that talks to you too close, they're not necessarily aggressive. They're just unaware of their physical proximity and what's offensive to the other. So if we'll try to adjust that. So yes, if you start to go into a horse's space and you're being disrespectful in that energy, even if you think, I'm going to love on you, I'm going to pet you in the face, you know, how would you like it if somebody that you didn't know came to pet you in your face? You know, not so good, right? So the horse may push against you, because horses, they don't give to pressure. Horses push into pressure. You have to teach them to give to pressure.
Sure.
So if they feel pressured, they'll push you. They may grab your shirt or push on your shoulder. Or have you ever heard of anybody getting bit or kicked?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It's because they missed the first 10 cues of, you know how horses say no?
No.
Well, they say no first, you know, like they'll give you a look or an energetic field, kind of like you would with a child, like, don't do that.
Right.
Their ears can go back. They can swish their tail. Biting and kicking is way down the list, you know. So if you can catch it when it's small, you'll learn how to respond in kind, so you don't cross those boundaries. But if you get crosses the boundaries, yes, the horse is going to respond the same way, the same pattern of 10 steps. If you've got somebody who's a 1 to 5 person and like easy to dominate, doesn't really have very good boundaries, lets people walk on them, well, they're going to come right over and start picking on them. They're going to, you know, pluck their hair or push them a little bit. And, you know, so yes, the horses behave the same with energy similarities.
Okay. All right. Okay, here's a question from Lakeisha. Is it better for me to come to one of your training sessions by myself, or is it better, do I get better results if I bring 2 or 3 friends, more of a group environment?
Well, if you have a group environment, you get to see and practice your intuitive skills, not just for yourself, but as other people are going through things. You start to really get so much better at this awareness that you start to pick up what's going on for other people. And that's the value for the leadership of life skills. So you will learn about yourself, yes, in a personal program, you learn about yourself. But when there's other people there, there's so many more facets of what you're learning that are so valuable that, you know, that's my recommendation.
Okay. And here's a question from Joseph. I seem to be fine on the phone, but when I'm sitting in person with a potential customer, I seem to come off differently. Any idea what might be missing?
Oh, I'd love to get you in front of the horses and I could tell you in a heartbeat. I don't know, because I don't know your energy and what you're doing. If you can imagine, if we each have an energetic cylinder, and you know how you can feel the difference between, like me talking to you right now, I'm sharing everything that I'm here in my energy. And at times I've done this, right? At times I've, you know, you can feel my, and I'm doing it through the camera. I see myself. It's all scary. Right. So learning how to use this effectively, it takes practice, learning how to use it effectively. And you watch, you know, with people, it's not so easy to watch, but you can see non or involuntary reactions when somebody's doing this or this or this, you know, they're giving you physical cues.
If they take a little step back.
To what your energy is. And if you can pay attention to what feels good to both of you. So watch the other person, watch for those cues. And if they're looking at their clock, watch, or, you know, their phone, or they're backing up, or they're, you know, I got to go, drop it, stop wherever you are and allow. This is how we build trust, right? Because if I'm paying attention to you, you're knowing I care, and you'll be more apt to listen.
Right, and that's probably a good time to try another close. Hopefully you haven't waited till the very end to offer a closing opportunity. But if I'm starting to do this, you might want to get your offer out there like immediately, because you're out of time. You've said enough. They've heard the pitch. They're either going to buy it or not buy it. And if they're going to buy it, talking more is only going to hurt it. And if they're not going to buy it, well, move on, right? Because they're already done.
Gary, I could do an entire series in sales skills training. If you're at the end of the call and somebody's looking at their watch and you disregard that without saying something like, are you pressed for time now? Have I answered all your questions? There isn't a buyer. Buyers, they've got to come to you. In a relationship. As a manager, your team has to be open to listening. You can't just tell, right?
Right,
As
right.
in a relationship with two people, without someone asking for advice, you can't just tell them what they should be doing.
Right.
You want your clients to come to you to ask, well, what do I need to do to take care of my problems? Can you help me? This is where you come, right?
Now, there's another question here for gender. Does it matter for whether you're a woman or a man, and do you run separate groups or mixed groups?
Good question. If it's a team, a developed team, mixed groups are fine. If it's a women's leadership training, which I have specific programs for women's leadership training, I do women only because we've got our separate issues. We have to learn how to modulate our energy. And when we mix it up, it gets boring for the guys to have to listen to what women go through, and it gets boring for the women to listen to what guys go through. So gender specific training is, I think, very valuable, very valuable.
Give me a second here. Oh, okay. Do you ride the horses or just work with the horses?
Right. No, it's not riding, because riding is about control. This is about learning about ourselves through the energetic, free, independent, at liberty response of another being. So it has to have the ability to get away from you if it wants to. It has to have the ability to come in if it wants to.
Right. Because that's the feedback loop then, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the feedback.
If you're riding the horse, it can't give you that feedback and get away. It's stuck.
Yeah. Well, it might try to throw you. Yes.
Well, that's a little more extreme feedback. That's the difference of not wanting to buy the product and punching the sales guy.
Yeah.
All right. So at this point, I'd like you to explain a little bit about the programs that you have and, what's appropriate for who, and then how they actually get to come to your facility or get you to come to their facility.
Right, right. Well, on my website, which is barbarainc.com, if you go on there, there is all kinds of information about the programs that I offer and where I'm going to be around the country. And then also the programs that are happening here in Asheville. But there's an additional form that's for people who want to have me come there or have a specific program for their group of people. And all you have to do is fill that out and we'll get on the phone and I'll talk to you about what the possibilities are. Okay,
so let me just summarize that. You have your location where people come to you. You have fixed locations where you're going. They're already pre-scheduled. You're going to be there whether I show up or not, right? And then the third option is people can come and do, let's say, a custom, whether you come to them or they set up a special team and come to your facility. So it's your fixed seminars and retreats. It's the fixed scheduled ones that are around the country. And then it's let's call it the totally custom.
Yes.
Is that fair?
That's it, exactly.
Okay. All right. So as we get to the end here, I always like to give you an option to just say anything you want. I mean, what do you want to tell the audience that they should know about you, about your program, about who's the right person, who gets the most benefit, and just open it up and let's get that information out there here so everyone has it before we drop off.
Sure, sure. Well, in addition to this work, I'm also a coach. So I spend a lot of time talking to people because I talk to people in different countries. And questions like, what do I do in this situation? How do I handle this? I'm feeling, this person's crossing my boundaries all the time. How do I use my energy more effectively? Or why am I letting this upset me? I'm going to leave my job because I'm so annoyed. And I like this company. I like what I'm doing, but I can't stand the people I'm working with, or I can't stand this manager, right? And there's no reason to, your life doesn't need to be ruined by a manager that you've got. It's learning how to be more effective and speak more clearly. And those are the kinds of things I can help people with as well. It's in my heart that life is meant to be fun, right? Life is meant to be fun. And we're meant to live in this balanced place, no matter what's going on around us, because that's how we can be more effective. But if we're always defending, then we can't be effective. We don't have ability to reach all the resources that are available for us.
Okay. Actually, it's not a question, it's more of a comment about, let's say, the younger generation and smartphones. Right now, there's so much communication with texting and emailing. That's all nonverbal, right? And it seems to create a lot of problems. People are understanding, because the words are a small percentage and the verbal is a big percentage, people don't understand what the actual message is that they're receiving, and they misinterpret. Right. So are you seeing more of that as a problem? I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, I interrupted you trying to understand it. Is this, are you asking about the energy in the text or an email? Or are you talking about what?
Well, it's just a comment about how texting is bad, basically. So are you seeing more problems now with people because of social media, texting, emailing, where they don't want to do this interpersonal communication, and it hurts them in their career, it hurts them in their personal life, it hurts them because they're not communicating with the majority of our communication skills, which are nonverbal?
Right. I would say definitely. I mean, what's happening is it's creating split energy. Especially if I'm texting while I'm talking to you, or I'm at a lunch and I'm looking at my phone. So I'm splitting energy. So I'm never really wholly present in one place or another. And what you find is depression that comes from that, because you never feel clear. You never feel balanced. You're always doing this. And so I think, and more people are talking about this now, how important it is to put the phone away and be present. What is presence?
In the moment.
Yeah, and mindfulness. Anybody who takes yoga, anybody who studies any kind of mindfulness practices is hearing this now, how the split energy is crippling us. It's really going to make us sick. So learn, and we'll move in that direction until the pendulum has to switch the other way. I mean, we're finding now meetings where people say no phones.
So you can be reached at barbarainc.com, right?
Yes.
And can people call you and just learn more about what you're doing to see if it's right for them?
Yes, absolutely. I'll set up a call and we'll just talk a little bit about what the issue is, and we can decide what a good plan would be to move forward. Absolutely.
Okay. And is your phone number on the website? So if they want to reach you, they can go to your website, put in a form, they can go to your website and get your phone number.
Yes, and it'll take them to what they'll get is a form, and it'll take them to a time where they can schedule an appointment with me. That's
okay.
Where, yeah.
So you can be in the moment.
Yeah.
Not be distracted. All right, fantastic.
Right.
Well, Barbara, I really found this topic fascinating. I mean, it gets outside of what I do on a day-to-day basis, kind of, but not really, because we're all having to communicate every minute, every day to our team, to our family. We have to convince people to, shovel the sidewalk and move cars and all the rest at our home. And then, of course, at work, we're doing the same thing. It's all about communication and convincing and selling and managing, right? And that always takes communication. So even if we're not in this as a primary mission, we can't escape it. So this type of topic, I just love, these things, because it's so much for everyone, regardless of what you're doing. So I really appreciate you coming on and taking the time to tell us about what you're doing. And again, let me turn the mic over. I'll stop talking and I'll give you the final close so you can tell people anything you want to close with, okay?
Yeah, sure. I just appreciate the opportunity and thank you for listening. I hope it was beneficial in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of free things on my site of different little things you can do and take to learn more about yourself. And just don't settle for anything less than a joyous life. There's one thing I would want to leave everyone with. Life is precious and our time together is precious. So thank you.
All right. Thanks again, Barbara. And for everyone, I'll repeat it one more time. That's barbarainc.com. And her phone number is listed there. You can set up an appointment. Well, let me restate that. You can set up an appointment so you can have a private one-on-one conversation. You can submit forms. You can have programs where you go to her, she will come to you, and there's fixed schedules around the nation. So she might be in your backyard sometime soon.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day, everybody, and thanks for attending.